Carl Froch, of course, 4 times boxing world champion, is with us here in studio alongside Simon and myself, and so too is talkSPORT's Fight Night host, Adam Catterall. Adam, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, gents. How are we?
We are very well. Thank you for joining us, Adam. Let's head to Carl first of all. Carl, we were talking there with Spencer Oliver about Billam-Smith up against Lawrence Okolie. Where's your head with that one this weekend down in Bournemouth?
I think that the odds are that Okolie is going to probably do the business. I think Okolie, he looks to me physically and strength-wise like a heavyweight that's boiling down to cruiserweight. He's a big guy. He's talked about going up to heavyweight at some point. Not many cruiserweights can make that transition up to heavyweight. I know David Hay did it for a bit, and obviously Evander Holyfield was like one of the best from cruiserweight up. But he disappeared for 18 months, 2 years, didn't he, Holyfield, and came back massive. I don't know what he was doing, but he came back at heavyweight. It was big. I just think Okolie's probably going to be too big, and I think that it's going to be an awkward, messy fight, and he'll probably maul Chris Billam-Smith. Probably get close to him, make it awkward, make it messy, and probably win on points and maul him in a messy fight for 12 rounds. Chris Billam-Smith, for me, lacks punching power at cruiserweight, which is what you need to keep Okolie off you and have that equaliser. And I just don't think he's got that equaliser. But I hope I'm wrong, because, both guys are great. They're good for the sport. I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. But if I'm sticking some money down on it, I've got Okolie to win this one.
Have you seen the background narrative, Carl, about Shane McGuigan? Because Shane's been quite disparaging of Lawrence Okolie and his propensity not to like to get hit and can quite actually pull himself out of fights if he wanted to at times, where Shane's pushed him back into the middle of the ring and get on with it. Yeah. What do you make to that sort of background where you've got a trainer that's trained one fighter going with the next and really forming a pivotal part potentially of the outcome? Yeah,
it's a nice little insight, isn't it, for Chris Billam-Smith? And obviously Shane is not being that complimentary of Okolie because he's probably not happy with the situation. But he knows there's probably something we kind of... I think that we fight the way our personality is. So like Mike Tyson was an angry guy, and he goes forward, he goes for the kill, goes for the knockout. And Lawrence Okolie, I think, is a bit shy and a bit tentative and a bit unsure. Don't like to get hit on the chin. None of us like to get hit. But no. I used to go forward and get hit with shots because I knew I could take a punch. And if I know I can get in range, maybe take one, but at least I'm in there and I can land 3 or 4 on my own and do some damage, that's how I would box. But if you're a bit worried about getting hit, you tend to be a bit defensive, you tend to be awkward, you jab and go on your back foot, you hold, do you know what I mean? And I think Okolie does a bit of that, and that's what Shane McGuigan's talking about. But he's getting more confidence now. I think
he's a world title holder, isn't he?
Exactly.
He should be, shouldn't he?
Yeah, so I just think the momentum's with Okolie, even though Billam-Smith could present problems. It's just that lack of punching power and that strength. Okolie's a big, strong, for me, heavyweight. I think it's coming down to cruiserweight. And I think that's what's going to be the difference.
Interesting. Adam Catterall's all ears listening to that. What's your take on it, Adam?
I completely agree with Carl. I think Lawrence has got one of those styles which is very, very awkward to look good against, because the minute someone does get on the inside, he's tying him up, he's hugging him, he's all over him, and as Carl's just mentioned there, he makes things messy. I think he likes things at range. He's got a very good jab. He's got a nice, strong backhand as well. So I think when everything's at distance, I think he feels incredibly comfortable. But when it gets up close and personal, I don't think he likes that too much, and therefore can make it a quite unattractive watch. And from Billam-Smith's point of view, that's where he's got to do the majority of his work. And Carl's right. I don't think he does have elite pop. I hope I'm completely wrong. As Carl's just said there, we want to see a tremendous fight on Saturday. Listen, it's the Cruiserweight Championship of the world, and we want to see something spectacular, but I think it will be quite a messy knock on Saturday evening at Bournemouth.
The thing I can't get my head around, Carl, you fought at the highest level. How can these guys who are so close to each other, very good friends, come fight night on Saturday night, first bell, that goes?
Yeah,
were you ever that way? Were you ever particularly close to anyone that you fought?
I was, yeah. It's a good question. And it just goes out the window since that first punch hit you on the end of the nose. Mikkel Kessler, we spent a lot of time together. He beat me in Denmark. Lost my first fight as a professional against Mikkel Kessler for WBC title. I was devastated. I wanted to get him back. He retired after that. He came out the Super 6 tournament, and I won the WBC title back off Arthur Abraham in my very next fight. So I felt better about it. But I got him back later, about 3 years later, for the WBA regular title, me and Mikkel Kessler. And we used to speak regular, and we spent a lot of time together in the Super 6 doing VTs and promotions for Showtime, which aired the tournament. So when it came to fighting, it was like Eddie Hearn was on to me and said, listen, you've just beat Lucian Butte. We can get Sky Sports now back on pay-per-view. I'm like, right, brilliant, let's do it, against Kessler. But we're like the lion's share, and I've said, listen, let's just go 50-50. I don't want to insult Kessler. I know I've got the Sky, and I've just beat Butte, so I'm like the big name in Nottingham. Let's go straight in, cut it down the middle, because I don't want him to think I've gone for 60-40. So the negotiations were really easy. And then when I spoke to Mikel at the press conference, he came over and shook me hand. He says, "Oh, thanks for that. I know what happened financially, so you're a man of your word." He said, "Let's give the people a good fight," and that's how it was. So we're getting in there, looking each other in the eye, shaking each other on the hand, and saying, "Let's just give them a good fight. Let's just leave it all in the ring." There's no holding, there's no headbutts, so no cheeky low blows, which happens in pro boxing. There's just mano in mano, fair and strong. And at the end of the fight, we embraced each other, I had a hug, and I got my own hand lifted. I got revenge on him. But
oh my God, we were talking about those fights this morning, you and I.
The two fights were thunderous fights.
Yeah.
Thunderous fights, and the point is that Carl's making is about the respect and the fairness of a discussion. But still, I mean, you look at the two fights, both of them were absolutely, as I say, thunderous fights, and no one could have actually suggested that these two guys like one another before they even got in the ring.
Absolutely.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.